Hello, it's Amy, and are you ready for a walk and learn? This is the second part of my three-part series on bone health. The first one, hopefully you watched that, walked and learned something about why bone health is so important, what it is, okay? This one we're going to talk about preventing further bone loss or just maintaining your bone health as you age. All right, 30 minutes, we're going to be doing a 2x1 style, 2 minutes of walking at your own pace, 1 minute of either walking fast or doing a bone building osteoblast, which you learned in the first one. All right, safety first, put the earbud in one ear so you can hear your other surroundings. Phone in your pocket if you're on the app. If you're walking in front of me or on a treadmill, when you're doing the bone building events, you may need to get up off your equipment or just do what you need to do. This is for you, just do it. Hopefully you learn something about bone health and you want to get up and start building it right away. All right, let me go to my computer so you don't need to see me. You can see a nice little, you're not tempted to watch me. And then let me set my timer real quick. Take a deep breath in. We're going to start warming up. The timer is going right now. Set your own timer for 15 minutes so if you're going out and back, you can turn around. All right, let's warm up gently. This is the perfect time to check in with your body, adjusting shoelaces and socks and pants and jackets and whatever you need to adjust. Checking in. How are your feet feeling? How are your ankles and your knees and your hips? Making sure you're walking with good form, as I talked about a lot in the first one. This bone health series, and then also making sure that you're adding some good posture with pulling in your tummy, holding in those hips a little bit so your booty's not sticking out too far, shoulders back and down, head right over your spine, not chin down, looking down at anything. I know you're not supposed to trip, but see if you can keep that head up as much as you possibly can without tripping. All right, 1 more minute of just a nice, easy warm-up. Take a deep breath in. Bring the shoulders up to your ears and then down. Bring them up and then down. Good. Make sure that if your upper back gets tight because you're going to be walking with good posture, that you make sure that you, if it starts to grip, make sure you stop and stretch that out because you don't want to be really super sore tomorrow if you're not used to walking with good posture. It takes time to build up those upper posture muscles, those upper back muscles. And if you're squeezing those back to have really good posture, you might feel it tomorrow if you're not used to it. Okay, that's happened before, not to me, but to several of my clients. Just 10 more seconds, take a stop. If you need to pause and go watch my pre-walk stretch, do so. That might help if you're still not warmed up if it's a really cold day. Here we go, 2 minutes of just walking at your own pace, and we're going to start talking about bone health and preventing bone loss in this one. Okay, let me get my clicker here so I can see my notes. Where did it go? Keep walking at a nice pace. Let's see. So my overall goal of this series really, and what's so important, bone health, it's really not bone health, it's reducing your risk of a fracture. And that's what we're going to start digging into. We talk about keeping those bones strong, but if you've already got osteoporosis or like me, osteopenia, I mean, our biggest goal now is to prevent any further bone loss, but also reduce our risk of fracture. In the third of the series, I'll talk even more about that. But here's some scary stats to convince you to stick around and listen and pay attention to this. A woman's risk of fracture is equal to her combined risk of breast cancer, uterine cancer, and ovarian cancer. Do you get that? The risk of all three combined, it's greater of fracturing a bone. A man is more likely to break a bone due to osteoporosis than he is at getting prostate cancer. 24% of hip fracture patients age 50 and over die the following year of a fracture. That's so scary. 6 months after a hip fracture, only 15% of patients can walk across a room unaided. So fractures are bad. Every year, nearly 300,000 hip fracture patients, 1/4 of every year, nearly 300,000 hip fracture patients, 1/4 end up in nursing homes and half never regain previous function. So it's so important. keeping that bone health good, preventing a fracture is a lot more, which what I'm going to be talking about. A couple more seconds and we're going to do our first 1 minute of a bone building osteoblast, which I told you about in the first session. The first one is just either a light jog if you want, or heel drops, coming up on your toes and then bringing your heels down with force. Because force, as you learned in the first one, equals mass. And you've already got your mass, unless you're wearing a weighted belt, you haven't increased that too much. Weighted vest could help when you're out and walking, help increase that mass, which will help increase the force on the bones, which will help get those bones to wake up. But if you can't increase your mass, an acceleration towards the earth, such as a heel drop or a jump or a jog, is just as good, okay? Okay, let's hold on. Let's went through, keep going, just some heel drops. You're either jogging or heel drops or stomps, whatever. I'm going to give you the option in every single one of these bone building minutes. And let's walk. All right. Remember everything that I'm talking about, by the way, because we're going to get talking into some details around nutrition and supplements and things like that. I am not a doctor, but I am a certified osteoporosis and menopause fitness specialist. So make sure, I have data, I have researched, I do have osteopenia, but I am not a doctor. So talk to your doctor about anything that I'm recommending here. Here are the top things that we're going to talk about today. To prevent further bone loss, we're going to talk about nutrition, supplements if you need them, doing the right physical activity, and stopping those bone depleting activities. So let's talk about nutrition. In my humble opinion, nutrition is by far the most important factor for not just healthy bones, but health overall. For most people, eating right is the most challenging part of staying healthy. I know for me it is. I've got exercise down pat, but if I want to be healthy, I take a really hard look at my nutrition. It really, really is easy to eat unhealthy foods, and it takes effort to plan. We do our meal planning on Sunday. We try to cook every night, but then you've got to go shopping and etc. But when you get a scary diagnosis of your health, or know more about the impact of nutrition on your future independence, I'm hoping you're going to think of food as fuel and a way to keep your body strong. I want you to raise your hand. I know you're walking, and promise. No more crazy diets, though. No more detoxes and starving yourself or living on processed protein bars or protein shakes. They're just not good for your bones. We've got to get good food into our body. Food is medicine. All right, here we go with our 1 minute of our bone building blast. You pick heel drops, stomps, light jog. You can do a run. You can do big jumps. You do what you want to do. I'm going to take a sip. The good things we need to be doing as you are doing this bone building event. But before I go on, I really want you to make sure that you're listening to your joints. If you are doing some jogging, you're stopping when your knees hurt, because that's the limiting factor. And too much of a good thing can be bad sometimes too. I know running I love it. I loved it, but it's really hard on my joints. When I'm on my walk, I'll do a little jog here and there. But if I overdo it, I pay for it in inflammation of my knee, because I do have osteoarthritis in this knee, which just means I've got less cushion. And so it's more bone on bone. It doesn't mean that I've got arthritis, but it does mean I have to be careful. All right, 2 minutes of walking slow while I slam that. Because when a joint becomes inflamed, the only way to reduce that inflammation is to let it heal. Rest, ice, compression, elevation are things you can do to help, but you've got to let it come down, which means you can't do as intense exercise as you did. So there's this I love that I called my company Be Healthy Enough, because you need to get just enough exercise to get that body healthy, get those bones healthy, get those muscles strong, but not inflame your joints and not get injured. That's just the balance that we have to play with this at this stage of our life. Okay, the good foods. that I'm talking about are whole foods. And what do I mean by whole foods? It's not just foods you can buy at Whole Foods. It's foods that are nature made without added anything, fat, sugar, or sodium. This whole includes whole grains like rice, quinoa, what other grains? Whole wheat, things like that. Legumes, beans, peas, all of that stuff. Fresh fruits are whole foods. Don't ever let anybody convince you that fruit's bad for you unless you are a complete diabetic, and you do have to watch that you don't eat too much of it because they are high in sugar, but they've got so many great things for you. Vegetables are a whole food. Think foods that don't need any labels, listing a million different unpronounceable ingredients. Eating more foods will help you get all those nutrients that your body needs without the extra calories you get from processed and fat foods. You got about 15 minutes and we're going to do another bone building event. Take a deep breath in, you get ready for that bone building event, and you are going to go do that. A heel drop, a stomp, a jog, a run, a jump, all in order. You can hop on one foot if you want, hop side to side. I just did a couple of impact cardio videos. I usually do low impact cardio videos, but we did bone building events in my low impact videos. If there's something you want to try at a later date, those are kind of fun too. I just released 2 of them as of October of 2023, if that's when you're listening to this. All right, let's see. The other good, getting enough calcium and vitamin D. These are biggies for bone. And I'm going to go into a lot more detail about what that means later, because that can be tricky, especially if you can't eat dairy. And then vitamin D, it's really hard to get it with your foods. And then the next good of your nutrition is adequate protein. That's a big deal. Of all the women I've talked to over the years, many are not getting the recommended amount of protein they need at our age to keep the lean muscle mass. All right, take a nice walk. And lean muscle mass is what gives our bones a good structure. And I'll go into details in a little bit on that one too. But I also, if you need more information on how much protein you need, I did a full video on that. On not just the recommended daily allowance from the government, but what we truly need over 50. And it's more than what they say we need, okay? All right, the bad. What are the bad? Too much salt. Excess salt can cause you to excrete calcium in your urine, and we all need as much calcium as we can, okay? So don't oversalt your foods, and watch the processed foods in general, because some of the canned soups and canned things have a lot of sodium. Excess alcohol. Alcohol can kill an osteoblast, and that's that bone making cells that we learned about in my first Walk and Learn, or in one of my first blogs that I did on this one. So be careful of alcohol. It's not good, and it's not good for a lot of things. Alcohol is a toxin. When you put it in your body does all it can to get rid of that toxin or that poison, and stops everything else, and it can deplete some of the things that we need as well. Too much caffeine too. Studies I've found say that more than 4 cups a day is too much, so watch that caffeine intake. And colas, this was new when I was learning more about osteoporosis and nutrition, but it's the dark colas. They contain phosphoric acid, which can cause imbalances gives our bones a good structure. I also found the study, this is what brought it home for me, is that from Tufts University, which includes several thousand women, and they found that women who regularly drank dark colas, the dark ones, the Pepsis, the Diet Cokes, even the diet ones, had almost 4% lower bone mineral density in the hip than those in the study that drank non-dark colas. I'm talking Sprite. Okay, we're doing our bone building event. You pick heel drops, light jog, running jumps, hopping on one foot, stepping side to side. You pick and you do it. All right? I'm talking Sprites, not the non-dark colas. So they're not saying you can't drink sodas, just the dark ones. So Sprite, 7-Up, what are some Mountain Dew, some of those other ones. Now 4% might not be a lot, but I think every little bit counts. So if you drink dark diet soda, I don't like diet sodas in general. Don't get me started on diet. It is so bad. It's such a horrible thing for your gut health. which is key to your overall health. So if you're drinking diet sodas, I'd really encourage you to start looking at other alternatives, please. All right, let's talk about, 5 more seconds. Keep doing that bone blast. There we go. Let's walk for 2 minutes. All right, we're 14 minutes out. Okay, so make sure you're noting. I'll try to remember to turn. You might want to just turn around now if you're going out and about. All right, let's dig into calcium. Calcium is the key mineral for our bones. Our nerves, our muscles need calcium to function. And if not, the body's going to take it from the bones or your teeth, okay? To maintain good levels of calcium, if you're over 50, you need about 1,200 milligrams per day. Remember that 1,200 milligrams? It's really not hard to get that through the foods you eat, and I'll show you and describe, not show, but I'll describe how in a little bit. The best dietary source of calcium is unfortunately through dairy. In general, you can get about 300 milligrams of calcium in a serving of it. Unfortunately, like I said, many people are lactose intolerant. And this does happen as you get older too. Have you noticed that? I do. I cannot drink milk in the morning. I'm not lactose intolerant per se, but I am more sensitive in the morning. So I've switched to almond milk, and in the evening I can have ice cream. I try not to have it because it's loaded with sugar and calories, but it doesn't make my tummy hurt. Like if you are intolerant, you know. I think my brother is. There is calcium you can find other ways in vegetables, in smaller amounts. So you have to remember too that calcium I haven't even told you this yet. You might be aware that calcium binds to the fiber in vegetables, and it's not easily absorbed. I'm going to explain that in a minute. So your best bet is to get your calcium through dairy, or fatty fish is a great options like sardines, and I don't like sardines. All right, next bone building blast. I wish I did. I am eating canned salmon now, which has bones in it. The news is that there's a lot of foods now that are fortified with calcium, so read your labels. The calcium that you get in your foods does count to your overall 1,200 milligrams, so make sure you're not getting too much calcium too. If you're getting 1,000 milligrams of calcium through your foods, you don't need to take a 1,200 milligram supplement. Does that make sense? Okay. Several foods that are high in calcium. I'll have a list to a blog post that will show you this. Milk, ricotta cheese, any cheese, almond milk that's fortified, orange juice that's fortified, around 300 milligrams per serving. Poppy seeds, just a tablespoon has 136 milligrams. I put some poppy seeds in my tuna or turkey salad the other day, knowing that it was giving me some calcium. Sardines, collard greens is another one that has a big amount of calcium. All right, done with that bone blast. Let's walk 2 minutes, walking at your own pace, checking in with your body. We are more than halfway done. Here's a way that you can get 1,200 or more milligrams of calcium in a day. So for breakfast, if you have an omelet with coffee, with cream or nut milk, you can have a nut milk or cream, 2 eggs, some cheese, some spinach, and coffee. That's 500 milligrams of calcium right there. Lunch, you can have a salmon salad. You can take some canned salmon, which I know is kind of gross, or you can use regular salmon. It's kind of mushy compared to tuna, but it's yummy if you can mix it up with some mixed greens, maybe put some Parmesan cheese or some poppy seeds. That's almost 500 milligrams rather. So you're already at almost 1,000 milligrams with lunch, breakfast and lunch. Dinner, I have an amazing mac and cheese with broccoli, healthy mac and cheese recipe that uses cheese, and it uses chickpea pasta, which has some more calcium and not any gluten. And that's 300 milligrams. So right there, I calculated it on the blog, it's 1,300 milligrams, and that's without a snack. So if you didn't get all the cheese, you could add a protein shake that's got some almond milk in it and maybe some collard greens or spinach to add the greens, or even some yogurt, some Greek yogurt for protein and calcium. So let's see. Yeah, so that's what I talked about. If you did take out the calcium, the dairy, that could be a little bit more challenging. Again, you can add some a snack. Let's see. So one of the good things to do is to write down a food journal, because you need to, at least for once a week, to make sure, once a week every season I do it. I did a blog on every season you take a look at your health habits, and 1 to 2 weeks at the beginning of every season, spring, summer, winter, fall, is just track what you're doing. Tracking your food, looking at your sleep. Okay, bone building event, you choose light jog, heel drops, running jumps, jumping side to side, hopping on one foot. 1 minute of doing what you want to do, or you're walking faster. Even walking faster is a little bit more impact if that's where you're at today. Let's see, we're about 10 minutes out. I need to get through this. I am going to start talking a little bit faster. Let's see, we talked about that. So yes, how do you know you're getting the calcium? You're going to have to track. Use a MyFitnessPal or your Fitbit food tracker, or writing it down just for a week, just to make sure, making any adjustments that you need to either finding a good supplement. There are supplements that are good. Please talk to your doctor. The things I've tried a calcium citrate. It's easier on the stomach and you can take it with food, but make sure that you read the levels. Calcium carbonate, it needs the acid in your stomach to dissolve, so you always take that with food. The calcium carbonate gave me really bad constipation, so be careful, that can happen. Now we're walking slow, walking at your normal pace. There are a lot of other things out there with regards to supplements, so I really, really, really want you to talk to your body, your doctor, and listen to your body. Let's jump into vitamin D. I want to get through this pretty quickly. Did you know that you need calcium, but vitamin D is just as important for strong bones? Vitamin D helps your intestines absorb the calcium in the foods that you eat. But how much do you get? There's a lot of conflicting information on the optimum amount of vitamin D. But I'm going to talk about what I've learned and what I know, so it might be controversial, but they're saying about 900 to 1,000 IUs per day for anyone over 60. Vitamin D is really hard to get through the foods you eat. Fatty fish has some, but only 150 to 500. Some drinks are now fortified with vitamin D. The biggest thing are mushrooms. Dried mushrooms have even more. You can get some. I'm taking some mushrooms, dried mushrooms, for my breast cancer to boost my immune system. But you can get 50 to 1,000 IUs right there with some mushrooms. And proteins, something like egg yolks and liver. Ugh, I don't like liver. But anyway, most of the times, if you're not getting enough sun, that's the only way you can get good vitamin D, is through the sun. As we get older, it's harder to take in the vitamin D from the sun. I don't like to get a lot of sun because of wrinkles and skin cancer, so you might have to take a supplement. I get my vitamin D tested and I'm right on track, so I'm good to go. So that's the nutrition piece of it all. Making sure you're getting the nutrients that you need, the protein that you need. I didn't talk much about protein. You'll have to go listen to that other blog, watch that other blog, watch that other video, or read that other blog that I have. Okay, bone building event. I think I'm trying to rush this. I'm going to take a deep breath while you are doing bone building, either a stomp or a heel drop or a run. Because bones like a load. We're talking about the fun thing that I love is the right type of exercise. To build bone density, you must do activities that surprise and add weight to your bone. The first walk and learn, I talk about bone. We talk about force equals mass time acceleration. So you've got to either increase the mass or increase the acceleration. So yeah, and you'll hear people talk about weight bearing, and that's what I'm talking about. The higher the load, the better. So if you are doing a run or a jump, you're getting even more better, as long as it's not too much. As I said earlier, walk slow. This is the statistic that I learned in my osteoporosis fitness, is that to build bone density, you must do activities that load the bones with 4.2 times your body weight. So that's called an osteogenic loading, and that's the force that's needed to stimulate a good osteoblast that builds bone. Basically, You can, anything that strengthens your muscles or puts resistance on your muscles or impact on your body will strengthen the bone. And to note, if you have been diagnosed with osteoporosis, you have to be really careful of these loads, all right? Because they can cause you to break a bone. So it's all a balance, all right? It's so much. Our bodies are so freaking amazing. They're so complex, but they're so incredible at doing things if we're good to them. So let's talk about the loads let's talk about the amount of loads based on the activities that we do. Swimming, cycling, biking. Cycling and biking are the same thing, I'm sorry. So swimming, zero load on your bones. Now, I'm thinking that if you're doing water aerobics where you're jumping, there is some load, or if you're doing resistance against the water, there's some load. You're doing swimming, some load. But to really get bone building, if that is your goal, swimming isn't the best exercise for you. I'd rather you pick something else. Swimming is amazing. If your joints hurt, it's so good for you. The next level is a brisk walk, which we're talking about. Walking is some impact, but it's only like 1 to 2 times your body weight. A run or a jog that you're doing in these bone building events is 3 times the jumping that you do, or strength training. All right, let's do one of those. Pick, maybe you're doing a 1 to 2, you're doing a brisker walk. You're walking faster than you did before, or if you want a little bit more, 3 times your body weight, a run or a jog, or you're jumping in place, or you're doing a heel drop. That's even better. Do that. We got only 4 minutes. I think this is the last one. Oh, I better get through this. This is the last one. All right. But always remember to load safety. It's really important that you learn to load your bones safely, especially if you've already got osteoporosis or even osteopenia, which is low bone density. The spine bones, especially the smaller ones, and the thoracic spine, which is around your posture, right at your upper back, between your shoulder blades, are particularly vulnerable when you're rounding forward. So if you do not use proper mechanics, you can cause a compression fracture. Compression fracture means that your vertebrae that touch against each other. Okay, walk nice at your own pace, kind of a brisk pace. We've only got 3 more minutes and we'll do a 2-minute cool down. By the way, how's your posture right now? Speaking of compression fractures, we always want to make sure if you do have osteoporosis or low bone density, don't fold forward at your spine. Don't fold forward. You can lean forward at your hips with a flat back, but any bending down to reach your toes, be careful of. Any crunches that folds forward, be careful of those. So in summary, how to prevent. We know about bone, what bone health is and why it matters. Now we're talking about preventing bone loss. You're going to make sure you're getting enough calcium and vitamin D. Talking to your doctor or a registered dietitian could help. Other things you might be talking about they might talk about are magnesium and vitamin K. You're going to load the bones with the activities that help and do strength training. Okay, we're going to talk about that next in the next one. You're going to limit the bad things that are not good for your bones, like smoking, a lot of alcohol, more than 4 cups of coffee. Make sure your body weight is appropriate, and by appropriate I mean not too thin. Yes, you can be too thin. We've got to make sure we've got that strong body, so it's okay to have a little bit of extra weight on you now. It's actually a little bit healthier than being too thin. I'm not talking about giving you permission to just go eat the junk food, because you still got to make sure you eat the right kinds of food for your bones. Okay, just about 20 more seconds and we're going to cool down. I will talk about, so we've talked about, let me finish up and summarize real quick before the timer goes off. You talked about what's important about bone health, how to prevent bone loss, and stay tuned. I'm going to share in the next one how to become more resilient to weaker bones. Let's take a deep breath in. This is the cool down timer. Bring 1 foot back. I want you to stretch out that calf. When you do these, I've noticed I'm doing more bone building events. My calves are tighter because you're using power, and that's coming through your calves some of the times when you're doing heel drops or small jumps. When you're doing a bigger jump, you're using the bigger muscles in your legs typically. But I'm noticing my calves are tighter. Unfortunately, the side effect of that is my feet are hurting a little bit more, and I have to be careful. So stretch out the back leg. Now bend your back knee and feel a stretch go further down towards your tendon, your Achilles tendon or your heel area. Now switch to the other side, stretching the other calf. All right, let's do a quick back of the leg stretch or a hamstring stretch. Bring one foot forward. Bring that toe up towards the sky with a straight front leg and lean down and feel a stretch in the back of your leg. Now point your toe and flex your toe, getting some mobility in the foot. And then switch to the other side, other heel on the ground, toe up, legs straight, leaning forward with a flat back, not a rounded back, and stretching the back of your leg. Now point your toe and flex it, and point and flex. Good. Now take a deep breath in, lifting your arms up to the sky, stretching over side to side. Make sure if you need a little bit more, you do my after walk stretch. I'll leave the link below. That is it. Did you learn a little bit more about your bones? I sure hope so, and I hope one of the takeaways is that it's very important to create a strong, resilient body. One, to protect and keep those bones healthy, and then two, if you do have weak bones, to keep your body strong and resilient for any curveball that comes your way, all right? And to do that, what do you need to do? Strength training, and I can help. I'd love for you to try my free basic strength training workout that's designed just for us over 50. It's simple, it's easy to use, and all you have to do is click that link below and send me your email, and I'll send you the free workout right away. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you liked what you learned. I'd love to know what you learned and what a key takeaway you had, and don't forget to subscribe right there. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.